The air aboard the Yuranth medical frigate was filtered, sterile, and humming faintly with the sound of anti-gravity stabilizers. Bright white walls and soft blue lighting gave the corridors a false tranquility, which stood in stark contrast to the scene unraveling in Medbay 4. "Stop moving, please!" barked Dr. Helix, a tall, willowy Tarsenian with pale green skin and 4 eyes blinking out of sync. "I'm not moving," groaned Asher Collins as he lay half-slumped on the diagnostic slab, shirt ripped open, ribs visibly bruised and swollen. A deep gash ran from his shoulder to his sternum, already bandaged but still bleeding through. "You are, in fact, shifting your mass in a destabilizing pattern," Helix snapped, adjusting a scanner panel. "You're disrupting the metrics. This is not optimal." Asher squinted against the overhead lights. "Maybe if you didn't strap me under something that smells like burnt seaweed, I'd be more compliant." "You are in critical condition," Helix said. "You require cryogenic stasis." "No, I don't." "You do. Your vitals are decaying. Your tissue oxygenation is insufficient." "You are exhausted," Asher cut in. "I'm exhausted. I haven't slept in 3 days. I've been running, I've been shot at, I've been hauling debris off trapped civilians, and I haven't eaten anything besides ration paste. What I need is a bed and 20 hours of unconsciousness." Helix blinked all 4 eyes. "That is not a recognized treatment protocol." A soft beeping interrupted them. The diagnostic slab finally completed its scan, displaying a color-coded 3D rendering of Asher's upper torso. Several bruised ribs, 1 cracked, and a dislocated shoulder. No internal bleeding, but severe muscular fatigue and dehydration markers blinking red. Helix studied the display. "So," Asher said, voice hoarse, "what's it say?" "You are broken in multiple places and your systems are failing." "It says I'm tired." "You will be preserved." "No cryo." Asher tried to sit up, winced, and fell back down. A second alien entered the room. Shorter, stouter, with a glistening blue shell covering most of its body, Dr. Venn, a Fielerite specialist in biological trauma. "You're freezing another one?" Venn asked, antennae twitching. "Yes," Helix said. "Human male, presenting with systemic collapse. Cryo will allow tissue regeneration to begin while—" "Wait," Venn interrupted, stepping to the table. "Human? You sure?" Helix gestured at Asher. "He speaks Terran Common. Has 2 eyes. Lacks exoskeletal protection. It is a human." Venn leaned in, looked Asher up and down. "What happened?" "Collapsed after extraction mission on Rylin's moon," Helix said. "He was found unconscious near a collapsed dome." Venn tilted his head. "Did anyone check if he was just asleep?" "I wasn't asleep," Asher muttered. "I passed out." "Big difference." Venn tapped the scanner screen. "Vitals are low, yeah, but not cryo low." "I agree," Asher said. Helix folded 2 of his arms. "Then explain the erratic cardiac rhythm, the muscular tremors, the complete metabolic derangement." Venn turned back to Asher. "When's the last time you slept? Properly?" "4 days ago. Food. Ration paste 3 times. Last night, I think. Hydration. Mostly sweat." "Okay," Venn said. "So you've got sleep deprivation, mild starvation, dehydration, and stress trauma. Not uncommon in humans after prolonged field work." Helix's shoulders slouched slightly. "Unacceptable. This pattern does not align with any stable biological model." Venn gave a short laugh. "That's just how humans are. They push until they break." "I didn't break," Asher said. "I bent really hard." Helix looked between them. He should not be able to function under these conditions. "Welcome to humanity," Venn muttered. There was a long silence. Then Helix, clearly frustrated, turned and initiated a new set of scans. "If we do not cryopreserve him, he may destabilize further." "I just need fluids and sleep," Asher insisted. "You put me in a freezer, I might not wake up." "We'll observe him," Venn said. "No cryo yet." Helix made a sharp noise that sounded like static. "Very well. But if his vitals drop below threshold, I will proceed." "You do that," Asher said, already closing his eyes. Asher woke up to a dull ache in his shoulder and a sterile taste in his mouth. The room was dimmer now. A gravity blanket covered him, and a hydration line fed into his arm. Ven sat nearby, reading from a floating tablet. How long was I out? Asher asked. 6 hours, Ven said. You stabilized after the fluids kicked in. Blood pressure normalized. Heart rate dropped to near human normal. Asher rubbed his temples. Still feel like I got hit by a truck. Probably because you did. Sort of. The dome collapse hit you with approximately the same force. Great. Also, your shoulder was dislocated. We popped it back in. Asher winced. Can't wait for that to stiffen up. Helix re-entered, carrying a tray of nutrient gel. You are conscious. Unfortunately, Asher replied. Helix placed the tray down. You appear to have slightly improved, though I remain skeptical of this so-called rest treatment. It's not a treatment, Asher said. It's basic biology. You get tired, you sleep. Helix narrowed his eyes, clearly unconvinced. Tarsenians enter regenerative stasis. Felurites hibernate for 12-day cycles. You humans simply lie down. Yeah. No temperature reduction. No metabolic suspension. Nope. Helix muttered something under his breath and walked out. Ven chuckled. You're giving him a crisis. He spent 8 years studying interspecies trauma responses. Humans don't make sense to him. Join the club, Asher said. Ven stood. You're going to need at least 48 hours before you can walk without pain. Full recovery's going to take a week. Maybe more with that shoulder. Yeah, Asher sighed. I figured. Want to tell me what really happened down there? Asher shifted slowly, wincing. We were evacuating a research team. Dome integrity failed. I got caught in the collapse. Shielded a couple of scientists with my body. Got them out. Thought I was fine. Kept working until I couldn't. And no one told you to stop? There was no one else left. Ven shook his head. You humans. You burn yourselves out trying to save everyone else. Asher glanced up at the ceiling. Sometimes that's the job. 2 days later, Asher was sitting upright in a recovery chair, a sling on his arm and a faint bruise still lingering on his cheek. Helix entered, carrying a new datapad. I have completed a full comparative analysis of your species' recovery protocols. Let me guess, Asher said. You think we're insane. Your methods are inefficient, inconsistent, and lack systemic logic. Sounds about right. But, Helix continued, they appear to be effective, against all reason. Asher grinned faintly. Told you I didn't need to be frozen. I still believe that outcome would have been safer. But not necessary. Helix tapped his pad. You will remain under observation for another 3 days. Then we will release you to quarters. Fine by me. Helix started toward the door, then paused. I have begun drafting a new subsection in the Xenomedical Guidebook. It will be titled Human Resilience, a Study in Chaos. Asher laughed, then winced. Good luck with that. Helix left without another word. Ven peeked in a moment later. He's been muttering to himself for hours. I'm honored. You're a walking anomaly to him now. Asher leaned his head back. I'll take that over being a popsicle. Ven nodded. Rest. Heal. And next time, maybe don't ignore the limits of your species. Deal, Asher said, already drifting back to sleep. The lights dimmed, the door closed, and for the first time in days, he rested without interruption. The ceiling above Asher hummed with a low, constant vibration that had worked itself into the rhythm of his thoughts. He'd been transferred to Recovery Ward 7, which, judging by the walls that pulsed faintly with bioluminescent patterns, had been designed by someone who thought calm and mildly unsettling were synonyms. A large, leafy creature with a slow, rhythmic sway to its posture stood at his side, pressing something cold against his neck. What's that? Asher muttered, eyes still half-lidded. The creature didn't answer right away. Its body rustled faintly, leaves twitching like it was deciding whether to acknowledge him. Topical analgesic, it finally said in a tone that sounded like dry branches brushing together. Organic. derived from the bark of a sentient grove on Garrula Prime. You may experience mild euphoria. I'm already experiencing mild suspicion, Asher said. The creature withdrew its frond-like hand and glided 2 steps back. Your physiology is unpredictable. If you begin to hallucinate, please describe the nature of the visions. We are cataloging. Good to know, Asher grunted, sitting up slightly. What's your name? Tharn. Well, Tharn, I appreciate the bark lotion or whatever, but I'm not seeing stars or talking to ghosts, so I think I'm good. Tharn tilted its head, a rustling sound following the motion. Disappointing. Asher blinked. You want me to hallucinate? The grove requested feedback. He stared. You're telling me a tree sent you to field test its medicine and wants a review? The grove is highly entrepreneurial, Tharn said. It recently acquired partial sentience and is pursuing medicinal patents. Asher opened his mouth, thought better of it, and closed it again. This ship gets weirder by the hour. Tharn reached for a nearby console, checked a series of readouts, and then handed Asher a translucent pouch filled with something that looked like thick, swirling syrup. Nutrition, it said. I'm not drinking galaxy sap. It is not sap. It is protein slurry with trace elements of selenium and crushed insectoid shell. That's worse. Your bone density is suboptimal. I'm recovering from a building collapse. Tharn blinked slowly. Then you require enhanced calcium intake. The shell is finely ground. This is not making it better. A new figure appeared in the doorway, tall, iridescent, and moving with the eerie grace of something that didn't quite obey gravity. A Drelaxi ambassador based on the long, trailing appendages and the faint shimmer around its eyes. It floated closer. You are the human? Asher looked between Tharn and the newcomer. Apparently, you need something? I am curious, the Drelaxi said. Its voice was melodic, like wind passing through hollow glass. The reports from the Rylin operation indicate you placed yourself between a plasma burst and 3 researchers. Why? They were in the blast path. But they were not kin. No. The Drelaxi paused. Such behavior is uncommon. Among our kind, protective instinct does not extend beyond the reproductive cohort. Yeah. Well, Asher said, humans are weird. The Drelaxi nodded slowly. We are attempting to quantify that. Good luck. Tharn leaned in toward the ambassador. He also resisted cryogenic stabilization, claimed unconsciousness was sufficient. Fascinating, the Drelaxi murmured. So rest alone reinitiates systemic function? Usually, Asher said, assuming your organs aren't leaking. Do yours often leak? Only when I've made really bad decisions. Tharn rustled approvingly. We are documenting humor responses. The Drelaxi circled once, examining Asher from different angles. You have sustained structural damage to your upper limb and thoracic region. Yet you sat upright after 8 standard hours. Is that typical? Depends on the person. And the pain. Manageable. The Drelaxi turned to Tharn. I would like to observe further. May I install a neural feedback array? No, Asher said immediately. It is non-invasive. You just said, array. That never ends well. The Drelaxi's eyes shimmered faintly. There is much we do not understand. Join the club. There was a pause as both aliens regarded him silently. Then the Drelaxi extended a thin, ribbon-like strand toward his shoulder, stopping just shy of contact. I request permission to monitor your pain response during mobility trials. You're asking if you can poke me and watch what happens? Yes. No. The Drelaxi withdrew the strand. Respectfully declined. Tharn stepped to a side panel and tapped a sequence. Mobility trial begins in 12 minutes. Please prepare to stand. Define prepare, Asher said. Mentally accept the inevitability of discomfort. Great. 7 minutes later, a platform extended from the wall and hovered a few inches above the floor. Tharn gestured toward it. This will assist your transition to vertical posture. Please step on. Asher swung his legs over the edge of the bed slowly, teeth clenched. His shoulder throbbed, but not in the sharp, blinding way it had before. The cold from Tharn's bark salve still lingered, numbing the worst of it. He rose carefully onto unsteady legs and stepped onto the platform. It lifted him smoothly, adjusting to his weight. The Drelaxi hovered beside it, eyes pulsing, initiating gait analysis. "If I fall on my face, it's not a design flaw," Asher muttered. "You are not expected to succeed on the first attempt," Tharn said. "I feel reassured." The platform began to slide forward slowly. Asher tensed, keeping his balance as the surface shifted beneath him. The movement was subtle but disorienting, like walking on a boat made of soap. "Step off," Tharn instructed. He glanced down. "You want me to walk?" "Correct. Not shimmy. Not shuffle. Walk." Affirmative. Taking a breath, Asher stepped forward onto the floor. His knees protested, and his shoulder pulled uncomfortably against the sling, but he stayed upright. "One step," the Drelaxi said. "Begin loop." Asher walked, slowly, carefully, for steps. 5. Around the bed, past the console, back to the platform. "Loop complete," Tharn said. "Congratulations," the Drelaxi added. "Your ambulatory function is 83% restored." "That high?" "We adjusted for species-specific instability." Asher sat back on the edge of the bed and exhaled. "I feel like I just ran a marathon while being punched." "Typical," Tharn said. "You exceeded expected strain thresholds. Humans always do." Tharn turned to the Drelaxi. "Should we observe neural fatigue onset?" "Not today," the Drelaxi replied. "We will monitor passively." "As long as that doesn't mean more sap drinks," Asher said. Tharn made a rustling noise that might have been amusement. "No. Next you will attempt cognitive reactivation." "Meaning?" "Puzzles." Asher stared. "You're going to give me a brain teaser?" "It assesses neural rebound. Can I veto that in favor of a nap?" "No." He sighed. "Fine. But if this ends in me solving alien Sudoku while hallucinating trees asking for Yelp reviews, I'm checking myself out." The Drelaxi and Tharn exchanged no obvious reaction, but Asher could have sworn they were enjoying this. He leaned back, wincing as his shoulder adjusted. "Bring on the puzzles." Tharn retrieved a smooth, hexagonal device and placed it in front of him. Lights blinked to life across its surface. "Begin when ready," it said. Asher stared at the device. Lights flashed. Shapes twisted. "I've made a mistake," he muttered. The device chirped cheerfully. The hexagonal puzzle clicked softly as Asher twisted its edges. Strange glyphs reoriented along invisible seams, flashing colors that seemed designed to confuse rather than guide. He stared at it, narrowed his eyes, then turned it again. Nothing happened. He turned it back. Still nothing. The thing was clearly mocking him. Across the room, Tharn emitted a slow, leafy sigh. "You are approaching the sequence from a linear logic pattern," it said. "This construct requires rotational cognition." "Rotational cognition sounds like a fancy way of saying guess until something lights up," Asher replied, squinting at the device as the symbols blinked in what looked suspiciously like sarcasm. "It is a measure of spatial neuroplasticity," Tharn countered. "The test is not pass or fail. It assesses adaptability under information ambiguity." "Well, good news," Asher muttered, flipping the device upside down. "I'm extremely adaptable to not knowing what I'm doing." The Drelaxi ambassador, now hovering silently in the corner, shifted slightly. "He exhibits deflection via comedy under cognitive strain. Notable." "I'm right here," Asher said. "You don't have to narrate me like a wildlife documentary." The lights in the puzzle abruptly dimmed and then reset, emitting a long, disappointed tone. Asher set the device down and leaned back, wincing as his shoulder reminded him it still hated him. "Your neural fatigue threshold is lower than projected," Tharn observed. "Expected, given your prior trauma. Thanks for the vote of confidence. You will now perform a balance test." "I just sat down." "Your circulatory flow requires stimulation." Asher stood with a groan and followed Tharn to a narrow platform embedded in the floor. A series of concentric rings lit up around it, shifting colors slowly. Place feet on the marked areas, Tharn instructed. Maintain posture during oscillation. The platform moved the moment he complied, tilting gently side to side, then forward and back. Asher adjusted quickly, bending his knees slightly, gaze fixed on a point just ahead. "You're increasing amplitude," he said after a few seconds. "Yes." "Without warning?" "Correct." The platform pitched left sharply. Asher stumbled, caught himself, then righted his stance. "Balance is holding," the Drelaxi noted. "Muscle response is compensating effectively." Tharn tapped gently on a control panel. The floor began rotating slowly under Asher's feet. "Now you're just messing with me," he said. "This simulates destabilized terrain," Tharn answered. "Common stressor in off-world rescue zones." "Yeah, I've noticed." The rotation increased. Asher adjusted again, shifting his weight without overcorrecting. His left leg trembled slightly, but he held. After half a minute, the platform slowed to a stop. A chime sounded. "Assessment complete," Tharn said. "Result, functional with mild asymmetry. I've been told worse. You may now resume seated recovery." Grateful, Asher returned to the reclined chair. Tharn handed him a small disc. "Place this at the base of your skull," it said. "I'm not plugging anything into my brain. It emits a low-frequency pulse. Stimulates cellular repair. I'm still not convinced you're not just inventing things to keep me occupied. It is optional. Recovery time without it will increase by up to 20%. Asher sighed and pressed the disc where instructed. A faint warmth spread across his neck. It wasn't unpleasant. The Drelaxi floated closer, attention fixed. "How do you define acceptable pain?" it asked. Asher looked up. "That's a weird question. I am conducting a comparative study. Your kind reports pain inconsistently. Some endure extreme injury with minimal indication. Others express distress from minor abrasions. Pain's not universal," Asher said. "It's filtered through stress, memory, expectations. And sometimes you just don't have time to think about it." "Fascinating," the Drelaxi replied. "You suppress it voluntarily?" "Sometimes it's not a choice. You just focus on what matters more." Tharn rustled. "Then perception of injury is subordinate to situational context?" "Exactly." The Drelaxi hovered silently for a moment, then turned away, apparently satisfied. Tharn checked the console. "You are scheduled for a musculoskeletal scan in 1 hour. Until then, you may engage in low-stimulus activity." "Like what?" "Listening to ambient frequencies from the Requari Nebula." Asher frowned. "That's just space noise. Very soothing. I'll pass." Tharn gestured toward a panel near the bed. "Manual dexterity trials are also available. You want me to play finger games with an injured arm? The unaffected limb will suffice." Asher looked at the small tray of objects, tiny metal spheres, a ring puzzle, and what looked like a coiled spring with embedded sensors. "No offense," he said, "but I'd rather stare at the wall." "That is also permitted." He did for a while. The wall's shifting glow changed every few minutes, cycling through soft oranges, then pale greens. It was oddly calming. Eventually, Tharn returned with a small container. "Topical enzyme application," it said. "To reduce inflammation in the shoulder." Asher glanced at the dull yellow paste. "It's not going to burn, is it?" "No. But it might hum." Sure enough, when the salve was applied, a faint, pleasant vibration spread from his shoulder down to his chest. "Okay," he admitted, "that's not bad. It accelerates lymphatic drainage. Fancy way of saying it gets the swelling down." "Correct." The Drelaxi moved again, this time with a more deliberate pace. "You have passed all required metrics for discharge," it said. "Pending final sign-off." "Already?" "You have demonstrated sufficient recovery." Tharn nodded. "Your biological systems have normalized. You will be issued standard monitoring equipment to wear for the next 4 cycles. Just like that. You will be escorted to a rest unit with environmental controls tailored to your species. Low gravity, filtered air, and access to familiar audio stimuli." Asher raised an eyebrow. "You mean music? We have obtained samples of your blues and lo-fi beats genres. That's dangerously close to hospitality." Tharn placed a final data chip into a slot on the wall. "You are permitted to engage in low-risk activities. No field assignments. No lifts above 10 kilos. And no running. I wasn't planning on it. The Drelaxi's gaze lingered for a moment longer. You have confounded multiple predictive models. Happy to be a statistical headache. We will revise our assumptions accordingly. Tharn stepped aside and gestured toward the hallway. Follow the guidance markings. Your quarters await. Asher stood slowly. His legs still ached, but the pain was manageable. His shoulder felt stiff instead of sharp. Progress. He walked without fanfare through the softly lit corridor. The markings on the floor pulsed ahead of him, guiding the path. As he passed a viewport, he paused. Outside, stars scattered across the void in every direction. A few ships blinked in the distance, rescue craft, freighters, research vessels. It was the same galaxy he'd always known, but somehow, after everything, it looked calmer now. He reached his assigned quarters. The door slid open. Inside was a single bed, a chair, and a console already playing something soft and rhythmic. A small shelf held a few familiar Earth items, a coffee mug, a paperback novel, and a folded blanket. Asher walked in, dropped onto the bed, and let out a long breath. No alarms. No collapsing domes. No alien puzzles blinking at him. Just quiet. For once, that was enough.